Hey nerds, I'm Will Wheaton, and you're watching Trek Culture.
We are lucky enough to be in a position where we can largely pick and choose what we work on. So if we say choose to work on For All Mankind, it's a lot of work, but it's because we chose to do it.
And also, a lot of the times we work from home. It's really important to try to keep a balance between work and life, and or though work can be life, so that we're able to kind of make our own schedule. I'm a morning person. I get up very early, have my coffee, I hit the gym, come back, then I'm ready to go. Michael's a night owl, so we have like opposite ways that we enter the day. And it's nice to be able to just follow our body's natural circadian rhythms. And not everyone gets to do that. So we're very fortunate.
That's so interesting because between the two of you, there's nearly 24/7 Okuda coverage in terms of projects you're working on. But how do you find that work from home balance? Because I know a lot of us, say for example, from 2020 onwards, suddenly found ourselves working from home, and there was a bit of a shock to the system. Have you, for the most part, worked remotely, or is this kind of since 2020, or maybe a mix of both?
We started doing an increasing amount of work from home maybe 10 years ago or so, ish, something like that.
Yeah.
But certainly COVID accelerated that. Uh, we worked on seasons 2 and 3 of Picard and almost never actually went into the studio.
Yeah, I mean, we mostly work from home, and the rare occasions that we did go in to the studio in Santa Clarita, we were in the midst of COVID, and they were very, very, very strict and careful, so that you had different badges, and it said, A, B, C, whatever, and you weren't allowed on the stages, for example, with the actors, unless you really needed to be there. And so the same thing with For All Mankind. I mean, we had different coded badges, and because Michael and I needed to be on set for All Mankind, we were there. But there was, full protocol with a whole division devoted to COVID and maintaining the rules. And then from there, we gradually started to work mostly from home, which we actually enjoy. I mean, you can get a lot of work done, and because of Zoom, you can have meetings and conferences. In fact, we're another project we're working on called the Roddenberry Archive that we've worked on for a couple of years, which we enjoy very much. Every Friday, we have a meeting with artists from all over the world in what we call the Brady Bunch box, and that's how we work on that project. Is through Zoom and working from home.
Actually, the Roddenberry Archive, I'm delighted that you've brought that up now, because that is something that has been just an incredible project, even from myself consuming the Roddenberry Archive. That sounds odd, consuming it, but I'm going to go with it. It's been just wonderful. I remember, I think it was 2022 it was, and I was at my first ever Trek convention in Vegas, and they had a whole section, a whole room sit there, and I remember looking at it going, that looks cool, I must come back to that. And then it's just blown up over the last while, obviously with the 765874 series, which has been just wonderful. All of our socks were knocked off with unification, but also the previous videos as well. But how has that been for you, for obviously seeing so much of your own work being restored and being shown now to the masses? I mean, not that we didn't see it as well, but how has that felt, cataloging that, and this kind of new appraisal, if you like?
One of the really fun things is that we work with a group of passionate, skilled, detail-oriented people, and a major part of the Roddenberry Archive is digitally recreating a lot of the settings, the ships, the bridges, and some of the other sets in a museum quality recreation. So 10, 20, 50 years from now, you can say, what was it like to stand on the Enterprise Bridge? And you can find out. And yeah, some of the sets we've done are things that I've worked on, and it's really funny. There'll be times when I'll say, "Oh yeah, I did this, and that was green, and it said this," and one of our artists will say, "We'll pull up research on from his hard drive and say, well, no, actually, that was you made that blue and it said that." And I'm going, really? And they'll put up screenshots and go, oh wow.
One of the things that we very much enjoy is the artists that we're working with. They share a passion for Star Trek just as we do. So we're all kindred spirits and we're all geeks, and it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of respect. We respect them tremendously. These artists are amazing, and they're really nice people too. So we've thoroughly enjoyed this project, and we've been with it for a couple of years.
I think it'd be very hard to argue that, yeah, like that. You know when you're on a Klingon ship, you know when you're on a Federation ship. I've always loved the Romulan ship myself. I've always been very partial to Romulans. Don't know what that says about me as a person, but I've always been very partial to Romulans. And I suppose then, if you don't mind me asking, that kind of brings you to a question about things like even Kelvin universe, or maybe because that's an alternate universe, maybe things like Discovery, like Strange New Worlds. Even there is a, not bad, not good, but there is a disparity in the evolution of design, and everyone has how they feel about it. That's absolutely fine. Where do you feel on that? Would say shows that are set in and around that original era looking quite different today.
You have to understand that the fundamental challenge that each show faces is that it must attract a new audience, and different producers have different ways of doing that. Would I have made different design choices? Absolutely. But at the same time, the production designer on, say, the 2009 film, his job was to freshen it up and to give it a distinct identity. Again, would I have done it differently? Absolutely. But you can't argue with the success of the show. Let me go back up for a moment to the remastered original series. The one thing that CBS did do that I take my hat off to is when it came time to release the series on Blu-ray, they spent a lot of money, put a lot of energy into using something that they call seamless branching technology, which allows you, when you watch the Blu-ray of the original series, you can watch the remastered visual effects, or you can click that menu choice, and you can watch the original optical effects. And to me, that's hugely respectful of the original artists, 100%. And hugely respectful of the people who like us, who grew up loving that original show. During production of the remastered, one of the biggest episodes was the Doomsday Machine, and so as I was ramping up, the effects producers said to us, "We'd like our guys and gals would like to suggest freshening up or changing up the actual planet killer," and we were aware that Norman Spinrad, the writer of the original, he wasn't particularly happy with the way that Planet Killer had been visualized in the show. So we said, I don't know, make some suggestions, please. At the same time, I located Norman Spinrad and I emailed him, and I said, do you have a sketch? And a few weeks later, a very talented model maker showed us this Doomsday Machine that had these spikes, and it looked much more lethal than the original, and I think it kind of did embody what Spinrad had talked about, and it was a very cool design, and I immediately realized that had we done that, it would have been a betrayal of people who have spent the last decades loving the show. So I said, I love what you did. We're not going to do that.
The episode Trials and Tribulations, was that almost, was it a bit like a trial run for what would become the remaster of the original series? Be like, oh look, this looks nice in sort of HD, and I know obviously it was a different process, but maybe a teaser for what was to come.
Didn't even think about it.
Yeah. However, it wasn't a proving ground, but during the run up for it, visual effects supervisor Gary Hutzel, who was really one of the forces of nature that made that episode possible, he persuaded Paramount to retrieve the original film negative from deep storage, and he rescanned it. And he scanned it in standard def, scanned it in HD, in 4K and 8K, just so we could see the difference. And
this is 1996.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 4K, 8K in 1996. That's impressive / very expensive, I would have thought as well.
We didn't end up doing it that way.
But he didn't scan the whole thing.
No.
But just to show us. So the difference between standard def and HD was mind-blowing. There was a bit of a gain for 4K, and frankly, there was very little difference between 4K and 8K.
But Trials and Tribulations was a dream come true. I mean, here, my God, we were recreating sets from the original series, and everybody was giving 200%. That was one of those episodes where everybody was really excited. We knew we were working on something special. And it was wonderful.
During Deep Space Nine, we made it a point. This is back in the ancient days of VHS tapes. We had a VHS player and a video monitor in the graphics department, and we tried to play Star Trek and sci-fi movies all the time. So Doug Drexler brought in a lot of original series episodes. So that became our research resource for the show. Doug sat by that video machine with a little printer, and he printed hundreds and hundreds of frame grabs. So when someone from the construction department said, "Well, how did this join into that?" He'd say, "Here's a frame for that."
Because we didn't have blueprints. There were no blueprints. Oh. So it was all done. Yeah, it was pretty extraordinary. It was it was a lot of fun. And I think the finished product is amazing. It's one of my favorite DS9 episodes.
It is, I think. It's often, if we usually do a poll or something, it will always be in the top of the episodes, which is, in a way, it's funny because it's a Star Trek show, honoring an earlier Star Trek show, and yet it's a standalone story that works all by itself. It's so clever. And I think pretty seamless. When you think of, again, mid-90s, as good as graphic, I mean, we've only come further on again for, how editing and graphics have gone. I think it's bloody good.
They did an amazing job. And a lot of that is due to the late, great Gary Hutzel, who pushed the envelope, pushed the technology, pushed everywhere. He pushed to rescan the film. He did motion control shots. He did these incredibly elaborate composites. When the producers weren't sure about the show, turns out Paramount did in fact have a fair number of original series costumes in storage. We didn't know that. So Gary said he wanted to do a test. So that weekend there happened to be a Star Trek convention in Pasadena. So we went there and we bought this red shirt. And so that the following Monday, I gave it to Gary. He took it to Image G, and he shot one of our camera technicians in the red shirt. And he put that person into a piece of film from the original series. And that was the proof of concept. He showed it to our producers and said, "Well, what do you think?" And they said, "Well, yeah, that's the original bridge." He goes, "No, that's our guy right there." and that's when they realized, "Oh my God, this can work."
On that day that episode aired, Did you hear the tears of just Star Trek fans throughout the world as we just started bawling, crying, seeing the Enterprise D back on screen again?
We were there. We were there with glistening
We were
eyes,
there
like
too.
everybody else.
And it had, was how long? I don't know how long from the time that it was filmed that we were not on set. Again, you had a finite amount of people that could be on set.
We did watch it by Zoom, by the way.
We had a live video feed.
Yeah,
there was a live video feed, so we saw it. But we knew. I mean, oh my God! And then we had to keep our mouths shut for a year.
Oh my God! Like
Terry and Dave did in fact invite us to all go down to see the finished set. And when we were there, it was a lot of fun. Ben Betz and
Todd Marks
and all those people were there as well. Frakes came by. It was a lot of fun. So I took a lot of pictures with my phone. Now your phone has this feature that every once in a while will say, here's a recent picture. Don't you like that? And so I'm in public and suddenly, ooh, there's this picture that I'm not supposed to show anybody.
Oh, and just the temptation, obviously you never would, but the temptation to be like, you don't know what's coming. It's going to be amazing.
Well, we, coming as Star Trek fans, we know that what you see on television, on screen, is infinitely better than what I can tell you. And because I'm a fellow fan, I don't want to spoil it because I want you to experience it.
Yeah, no, we were not tempted to tell people. I mean, we were jumping up and down inside because we knew that so many people that felt like us, that think like us, would just be over the moon happy. That made us happy, but we didn't want to spoil it. We didn't want to share it. I mean, it was not hard to keep that secret.
I mean, the best reason ever for zipping, because I mean, I remember my first, just tears, honestly. And I wouldn't have traded that for whatever reason, I wouldn't have traded that moment of the doors opening for anything.
When we work on the show, working on Star Trek is the thrill of a lifetime. Absolutely. And to be part of the family that makes it is an absolute joy to a Star Trek fan who has something to contribute to it. But at the same time, you give up something. We can never watch the show and go, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or, holy crap, that's the Enterprise. Because we know, because we worked on it. Now, it's absolutely a trade-off worth making. Gladly, and I can't imagine any fan wouldn't make that trade-off. But it is a trade-off. It is something that we're knowingly saying, okay, I cannot watch this with the eyes of a fan.
Thank you so much for watching this abbreviated version of this podcast. Now, if you go to our audio platforms, you will get the full version of this podcast with this guest. So we really, really appreciate you subscribing to that, and you're just awesome and wonderful. Thank you so much.